Yeah. Okay. Just winding down for the day. Looking forward to catching up with you a little bit.
Yeah, man.
We haven't spoken before,
I don't
but
think
you've
so.
kind of been on my radar for a long time. But this single, man, holy moly,
Thanks, man.
this is the best thing you've done, right? Would you agree?
I'd say yeah, it's one of the best things we've done.
One of the best things.
Yeah,
For
just because
me, it's the best thing you've ever
I know
done.
what else is coming. So to me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is pretty good so far. But yeah, I would say if my drummer were here, he would be like, this is the best thing we've done. So
Okay. Well, on this occasion only, we'll listen to the drummer.
for sure.
And I have to say, your vocals are on point on this. They're so good, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So let's talk about this song first. Where did this song start for you?
So this was one of those occasions where it actually started as a jam of sorts. So me and Matt, our drummer, were just messing around, and it came primarily because my amp had a defect that day. I was messing with I don't know how tech savvy we're gonna get into this, but essentially there's like a thing on it called a tremolo, and the tremolo like glitched, and it started making this weird sound. So I just started playing the main melody that's on that guitar there. They're like, but it sounded cool with the tremolo. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I just hit the amp and it fixed itself. So I was like, ah, crap. Well, now what? And then we tried it. And then just for fun, I started playing that opening line. And then I was like, oh my God, Matt, this might work together. Like, let's see if it's in the same key. Because I don't have any theory like training when it comes to writing songs. I was a drummer for years. So
Okay.
like I still have that drummer almost like Dave Grohl mentality of like, okay, what sounds good? And then we're just gonna run with it like that. So it sounded good, and then luckily it's in key. And so we started messing with that, and yeah, we just ran with it, and it's very simple. The structure you hear is exactly how we played it the first, I'd say after like three or four attempts of running through like an idea, that's where we ended up, and it just stayed the same. Even once we got to studio, there was no like changes that were drastically made or anything. So we actually did it in a rehearsal space here, and that's where we jammed it the first time. So no
Okay.
stomping around.
So a nice happy accident.
Yeah, 100%.
Is it going to be? Can you recreate it every time now?
No, and it doesn't matter because the tremolo effect doesn't actually need to be there. We were going for a completely different vibe when we first
Right.
started playing that melody, and then once it stopped, we're like, oh, okay, well now what? And then I started playing that like high melody intro you hear at the beginning, the like, be-doo, 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 be-doo. Started playing that, and we're like, oh, let's make like a faster paced like driving song, and we ran with that, and that was it. And I kind of knew how I wanted the vocals to be, even though I had nothing in mind when we did it. And then I revisited kind of old journal entries and old kind of scrapped lyrics, for lack of a better word. And that's where the song came from. And yeah, it wrote itself. It's one of those songs where there wasn't much, I don't want to say effort needing to be done, but like it really flowed, like everything creatively flowed. And the song itself was just very easy. Like it essentially just wrote itself. So I'd love to tell you about how I went on like a trip or something, and this was just something miraculous that happened, but it just fell into place. And
Yeah, you're gonna have to make up some better stories. Like,
well, I mean, the title alone has its own story. So Holy Moly is really just because that was the name we gave it when we first came up with it. Because we're like, oh my God, like this is great. This is the greatest thing we've ever done. So we're like,
there
Holy
you go.
Moly.
Told you.
Yeah, exactly. So we ran with it for a while, and then Matt was like, okay, if we're gonna release it though, we gotta ditch the Holy Moly. And there was like a whole debate in the band about keeping it or getting rid of it. And then we reached the compromise, which is why it's now called Holy Moly, This Is Who I Am, because Matt really wanted to be This Is Who I Am. And then me and Zach were like, oh, well, Holy Moly is kind of hilarious. And like people know it as that, referred to it like that live. So we're like, and it's gonna cause a conversation. People are like, why is it called that? Like that's so random.
Yeah.
And it works. So it's kind of it's stuck, and we're both happy with it.
Is that typically how songs come together? Is like you come up with the music first and then see what inspires you lyric wise?
Not always. So on like our first EP, it was a lot of like, yeah, we would play, we jam together, and then we got stuff. Except for the song "Beautiful Day," that song was just again a happy accident. I started kind of humming an idea, and then I ran with it, and then again being ignorant to guitar theory and stuff like that, I just messed around until I found something that matched what I was singing, and then that's where that came from. On our newer stuff, it's been a bit of both. So it's like either ideas that I had shelved because they didn't fit, or because I wasn't inspired, or in some scenarios, yeah, we had jammed it a bit. So like there's a song that we're probably going to release eventually. That was a similar concept where we were jamming it, but then we shelved it, and then we realized there's something there, and we went back and revisited it. But most of the time, I get kind of an idea. I do a demo. I do a really rough vocal that even I hate listening to. I show the boys, and then we run with it from there. Sometimes it's just a riff, and then we run with it from there. But yeah, no, like typically I'm more of a lyrics and vocal melody guy than I am a riff guy or anything like that. Because to me, the most important part, and not to be rude, but like the most memorable part most people tend to remember is the vocals and the lyrics. If there's a good hook or a good chorus, people will remember your song just for that. Because I'm not the most talented musician ever, so I'm not writing, crazy licks that people are gonna be like, "Damn, did you hear what he did on that solo?" Like to me, it doesn't matter. If it needs one, we'll do it, but it's not what we're about either. Like that's where the whole stadium rock kind of thing comes from, is we're trying to write songs that feel good to us because of bands we look up to, but also have that potential that you can hear people singing back to you or getting involved or feeling that same energy you're giving to them. So
you mentioned about pulling lyrics from your journals.
yeah.
Talk to me about that whole process. Like how do you go to your journals and find what's going to fit to a song?
I have a really like stupid good memory. So in the case of Holy Moly, I remembered one time I like written something that I was like, oh, this would be cool to use one day, and then I just never used it in anything. And then I was like, instead of forcing something out right now, let me just think of something. And right off the bat, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, you have something that's like perfect for the like vibe we're going with. So I went through my journals and I found it. But in other instances, sometimes it's like, okay, what kind of feeling am I trying to convey? And I'm someone who attends therapy regularly, and I'm also someone who just really tries to be in touch with my emotions and also just try to get as much out onto paper as possible. Because it's always good to look back sometimes and see where you were a year ago and where you are now. So
Yeah, for sure.
so exactly. So I revisit those and I'm like, oh my God, like it's right here. Like I just need to reformat it because obviously when you're writing, you're not rhyming necessarily. So I'll take from there. So mental illness is a huge part of my lyrics personally. Just because I've had my own kind of bouts with it and I still have my own bouts with it. So I tend to go that way a lot. And again, I'm trying to always reach people that have felt like me, whether when I was 15 years old or how I feel now sometimes. So I'm writing for people who probably are out there and thinking the same thing. And so that's it. So it's really easy for me to write because I'm writing about something that's important to me and that I feel is something that should be talked about more, especially like amongst men. I feel like mental illness gets overlooked a lot amongst men because it's not taken seriously because, you're not a man. But I think dealing with some mental illnesses makes you more of a man than running away from them. So
No, I think you're right. I think it's really important to talk about it, and especially with men because they do kind of bottle it up a little bit more.
yeah.
Hopefully it's getting better, but it's still a long way from where it needs to be.
Exactly.
Sure.
So it's pretty important to me. So usually that kind of stuff or, past relationships make it into our lyrics pretty often.
Even though your music quite often lyrically touches on dark subjects, the songs themselves always feel quite uplifting and empowering and positive.
Yeah.
So how do you find that balance? How do you find the balance that works?
So that I think honestly I've always got from I think I don't remember if it was in like 2015 when I first heard of the Struts where I was like, oh my God, like these songs are so like make you want to groove and have like a good time, or if it was when I was in my like Oasis phase, or even because again, Foo Fighters are such a big band to us, where it's like, why does a sad song have to sound sad kind of thing? So that was kind of my thing. I was like, all right, well, let me try to do like some form of like kind of yin yang where it's like lyrics could be really dark potentially, or like at least touch on dark subjects. We're not going into detail in the lyrics, but the kind of feeling of the song is I've always found our music should remain hopeful. Just because I find it's very easy, especially when you're depressed, to kind of, just fall into that void and feel hopeless and like nothing's going to get better. So finding a song where you can relate to it and then, you just feel by then almost heard or just felt like you got it out. I find that just so much better than, just being like, no, give into it. Like, it's so like, be sad. It's okay. Like, it is okay to be sad, but I find sometimes you need that kick or to feel at least like there's a shred of hope that it gets better. Because at least for me, like as much as, you know, I was a metal kid growing up, and that was great. That worked well when I was an angsty kid. But like after a while, it started to feel like, well, am I always going to be this way? Or can I like, you know, can I be that little kid that I used to be that, you know, was just happy and caring about everyone and stuff like that. So that's when I started finding bands like Foo Fighters and Oasis and a bunch of others who kind of do this similar thing where the music is very like, wow, look at that. Anyone could listen to this. And then sometimes you listen a bit more into the lyrics, you're like, oh. So yeah, there's even other bands that have done that too. Like I remember when I was into like My Chemical Romance kind of phase. They do that a lot where they talk about like death and stuff like that. Like it's nothing, but the song is like super joyous, and you're like, I didn't realize what we're listening to. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, you know, I want our music that, you know, if someone comes, they're like, I'm listening to the lyrics and that's why I'm here. I'm singing it back to you for this reason. And some people are there, there's like, this song is just a vibe and I'm so happy to be a part of it. Like it's really, I want it to be for everyone and have that accessibility while still being not super generic or not super surface level, you know, deep kind of stuff. But I don't know, I just find it's very easy and it just makes more sense to do it that way instead of making a super sad song that just sounds super sad and then a super happy song that sounds almost like too happy.
But how is it for you? Because some of your lyrics, they go like all the way to the dark side. You've spoken about suicide before, and then you have to go on stage every night and relive this part of your life. Does it just feel cathartic because you got through it, or is it a reminder of like how life goes up and down, or what? How is it for you?
It's a bit of both. So first start playing them, it's always scary because like you don't know how the crowd's going to react. You don't know if anyone's going to care because they're always newer songs, right? So when you're playing them new, like fresh, we're like, all right, this is a new one, and you're like, this is a good test. Is anyone going to care for these songs? Or they're like, ooh, boo, go back to the heavier stuff, or go back to like yelling. So I'm like, all right, we'll see how it goes. And people have been pretty receptive, thankfully. For me, it's cathartic because it's like, you know, this is who I was, I still am, but like, you know, the suicide part is pretty much closed on my end, I'd like to think. I don't think that's going to be revisited literally, like maybe lyrically I'll do it, but literally I don't think I'm going back that route anytime soon. Um, and it's nice too because, you know, yeah, like I said, you get to live it, but at the same time, it's cool because sometimes you'll play it and you see some people who've heard it enough that they kind of recognize the melody and stuff that they're like singing it back a bit. And you're like, that's really crazy that, you know, that there's people that know the words that, you know, you don't even know. Um, and like it's just cool because you never realize like how much your music can mean to people, even if you're so little of a band until like, for example, we played a festival this summer with some local bands and I do this thing where I go up and I'm like I just get in my head and I'm like, no one's here for us, like whatever kind of thing. Like they're here obviously for the main bands. We're just here to like, you know, hype them up a little bit. But then people were so receptive. So like I feed off the crowd. So if the crowd's into it, I'm like, all right, well then I guess we're in. So that's when it clicks in fully. And obviously, you know, you have your stage persona and your offstage persona. So already I went on, clicked on, like, we're going to do a great show. And then people were just so receptive by like the third song. And I was like, oh my God, like this is insane. Like some of these songs aren't even out yet. And people are already like having the time of their lives. And like after that set was done, you know, we're expecting them to just shift to the next band and then forget about us. But like people were throughout the night, we're still coming up and like, you guys are great. Like keep doing what you're doing. Like, oh, I love that song about this and that. And then like I've had a few people be like, because they recognize the lyrical themes, like please like never stop talking about that. Like that's amazing that you're willing to put that on display and casually like it's nothing. Like, well, it should be a conversation. It shouldn't be something that we're like, sorry, but I almost committed suicide, if that's okay to bring up. It's like it's my own story, so I'm gonna put it out there. And like, yeah, it's a little tough to hear sometimes, especially when there are people that are close to you, because a lot of people on my end didn't know about it until the song came out. But it's because that's when I finally felt comfortable enough to start talking about it. Because one, I knew I was okay, and two, because you know it's out there now, so there's no running. But it's nice because I've had a lot of people hit me up after too, saying you know how they feel heard and how you know it's cool to hear a song like that because it's someone personal to them, so it's someone they know, and they're like, okay, well if they can do it, then I guess I can do it too. And yeah, I've had people. I remember one of the funniest stories we've had was me and the boys went to see Royal Blood at MTELUS. And after the show, it's a habit. I just go to the stage to look at their pedal boards and see if I could snipe like a pick or a set list just for the fun of it. So I was like, all right, let me see. And then I'm jokingly like messing with the security guard and stuff. And then nothing bad, like just banter. And then this woman just turns, she's like, can I see her face? And then I'm like, oh boy, it's probably like some drunk person who thinks I'm like her friend Jeff or something. So then I turn, she's like, shit, yesterday. And I was like, what? And my girlfriend and one of my best friends were there, and they both like started laughing. Like, that's so random. Like, what? Someone here recognized you? I'm like, I don't know who she is, by the way. I'm like, this isn't like a friend who's pretending to do it to like mess with me. I'm like, I have no idea who she is. So that was crazy. That was really, really cool. And like, I couldn't stop smiling after that. And she took a selfie and she was super happy, like happy about it.
Nice.
But it's just cool because like, again, like to us, we're still such a small, up and coming band that like when you have moments like that, you're like, okay, maybe, we're onto something and maybe we have made a difference in some people's lives. And, maybe there are some people who really care about what we're doing. So I don't know, it was really cool. So yeah, like I love it. And I'm looking forward to the day where we can play the bigger stages and, singing those songs and it feeling like a victory to not me now necessarily, but like, high school me or elementary school me who was, bullied and everything to like feel like this was a victory and like a big, like F you to like everyone who ever said like you're worthless and you're never going to be loved and no one's going to ever care about your music. And then here I am now playing, festivals with bands I look up to. And, we opened for Blue Rodeo, which was crazy. It's just that kind of thing, right? It's like, okay, this is pretty cool. Like to me, I'm in the moment, I'm so like, I can't even take it in, but like I know inside like my child version of me is like freaking out because they never even thought they would make it out like their parents' basement. And then here we are now, Arctic Victory.
I'm sure like almost every band, that's how they start. Nobody expects to be the Foo Fighters. Probably even the Foo Fighters after Nirvana didn't expect to be bigger than Nirvana, which they did become,
Yeah.
So it's crazy times. And you have this kind of tagline, the stadium rock meets the underground punk thing, which I think is a really good summary of what you do. And you can imagine these songs on a big stage, but you can also imagine them in Petit Campus, where you're going to be pretty soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, which of the bands do you think like match that description the best? That stadium rock meets underground punk.
I mean, we take so much influence from like Foo Fighters and like Muse and Royal Blood and stuff. Like Big Wreck actually has been a huge influence on us recently too. Green Day, you could say as well, right? So I'd say like especially early Foo Fighters where it had that rough, edgier kind of punkness hidden underneath. Yes, it was still more poppy than Nirvana, but it still had like the rawness and Dave's screams are still there. That was where I like really liked that kind of bridge of like, oh well, you could still play these songs to a lot of people. Like it doesn't have to, you don't have to play, a house party and that's it. That's all that's going to be your career. Like you can play these big stadiums and stuff. And so it's the same thing with like guys like Green Day and stuff like that. And there's even some bands now that we listen to that are like also up and coming. So like the Dirty Nil is a band I really like. And I just saw them recently at Cafe Campus and they were great. And like, they're a band that you can see like, they're so close to like just taking off because they have so much charisma live and even in their songs they're just so good that it's exactly that. It's underground punk, but like you can tell like if they just hit the right nail, they're gone. Like they're in a whole other realm after because they have that charisma they need to like entertain a crowd. They don't take themselves seriously in the best way, like not that they're asses or anything. It's just they're very much like the music's great, but we're gonna joke around and mess around with the crowd and stuff like that. And like that's what makes it fun. So it's exactly that. Like same with us, like we don't want to. I find sometimes some bands can be a little too pretentious about who they want to be, that it's almost like we get it, but like for now, like also read the room kind of because
Yeah.
You can see through it. You know what I mean? Like I've seen bands where it's like they're doing exactly that, but it's like it doesn't feel genuine, kind of thing. And I'm all for the, fake it till you make it kind of thing. But it's nice when, it feels genuine to yourself. Like you don't feel like you're lying to yourself either. And when people come up and they could tell that you're just genuinely passionate about what you do and not just like an act on stage. And then that's it. You get off stage and you're like, I'm better than you and stuff like that.
Don't look me in the eye.
Yeah, exactly. Like so many people who've met us after the shows are always shocked by like how different in a good way we are than what they expect, like on stage goofs and like having fun and like I'll shred my vocals and stuff and then I'll get off. And then, they come up and they're like, hey, great set. Like, oh, thank you so much. Like, oh, do you want a hug or do you want this? And like, want to take a picture? Here's a pic and all this. And then our drummer's like super shy. And then Zach's super chill. And then Marco is just super funny. So like they're always taken aback by like, they expect because we do such great performances that we're just going to be like just as serious once we step off the stage. But, we're still the same old people. Just we really like have fun with what we do. That's our job.
Yeah.
But, we're still happy to meet you and we're happy that you're here.
Yeah.
We're not better than you or anything.
Well, when you are headlining stadiums, just remember that.
Oh, I will 100% because I've gone to meet some bands who were super like humble and nice and stuff like that. So since then I've been like, oh, well then I can do this. Like it's all about how you kind of carry yourself and stuff like that. I never want to be the type of person that I'm hiding so much from people that like that's why they're chasing me, is because it's so hard to like get a picture or to like shake my hand. Whereas like if I'm just in a grocery store and someone's like, "Oh my God, hi," like I'm not gonna be like, "Excuse me, I'm buying groceries." Like time and place. If I'm at a dinner with my family,
Yeah,
I might be a little more like, "Let me finish my dinner," like Adam Sandler does that, where he's like, "Let me finish and then I'll come see you." Like I might do that, but again, time will tell. But I don't know, man. I can't see myself saying no to people. I'm too much of a people pleaser.
like I can't imagine what it's like for these like complete superstars, like how because you could be the nicest person in the world, but
Mhm.
at the same time, you can't be nice to everybody who wants to talk to you when you get to that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so you got this gig coming up
yeah.
with Hotel Mirror. What's the typical Yesterday show like? Are the songs different live?
Yes. So that's something that's pretty important to us. Because we've seen some bands that we've watched videos of and they extend parts or they change it. Like again, in studio, there's like 18 guitar tracks. Live, we're two guitars. So like you're obviously gonna have to make do with what it is.
Yeah.
But we also add some, theatrics for lack of a better word, to make it more enjoyable and more of a show versus going up, plugging in, playing the show, and then goodbye, have a nice night. I know I've always enjoyed when you feel like you're a part of the show. So kind of including that into our shows in a way. So getting some crowd participation, extending parts and like feeding off the crowd and like egging them on and stuff like that. Like I find works really, really well. But it, obviously again, read the room. So like we played shows before to like a lot of older people. Like we played, I think, at a pub once for a charity gig, but it was primarily for like retirement homes. So
Wow.
the room was generally like 60 and up. So like there wasn't a lot of energy to get. So I had fun with it because I'm a bit of a jackass like that. So like we have a song called Light It Up, and that's like our mosher song. So like we get to that song and I like automatically started like singing like a certain pit.
Psycho
They're like,
man.
I want to see a pit, let's go. And like they understood it was a joke, so they were laughing and having fun with it. But like they knew I wasn't being serious. They could see that like I knew what I was doing and I'm not actually asking for, people with walkers to go in the middle and start moshing. So
That would be amazing.
it'd be amazing, and I would have laughed my ass off because it's incredible that I did that. But no, it was very much, read the room and stuff. But typically, yeah, we play our songs pretty much the way we are, but like extending stuff a certain way. Some songs are in a different key than when they were recorded because we track them in standard tuning. Now we play everything and record everything in half step down tuning. So obviously there's differences there, but like besides that, nothing crazy. We like to let people shine for certain parts. So like our drummer gets a lot of shining time because what we play is pretty straightforward, alternative 90s rock. There's not crazy drum stuff happening, but he's such an incredible drummer. So sometimes he'll add fills here and there, or we'll give him like a moment to just go crazy. Um, and it's great because then people are always like floored because they don't expect that, right? They're like, oh, it's gonna be like a punk drummer, and then he's gonna get a fill, and it's gonna be like a sloppy like kind of thing. But
Yeah.
he's flying around, and they're like, oh, damn, okay. So we really like to do that. Again, stolen from some bands that we look up to because that's just you can always borrow and stuff like that. Like we wear our influences on our sleeves. If you come to a show and you see how we perform and stuff, you'll still tell it's us, but like if you know us very well, you're like, I know where you got that from. It's the same kind of idea. So our shows are very much, meant to be about us, like everyone, not just like, hi, we're the act, you're the crowd. Have a good night. Let's go. It's
Yeah.
very much, we'll have fun with it. There's banter usually in the crowd if time allows. And so when it's our headlining shows, we have a bit more time to talk. So if we don't have a limited set, I tend to banter sometimes with the crowd, while we're tuning or just between songs if someone shouts. One show we had a conversation about cheese, just casually because someone said cheese and I was like, yeah, totally. And then we started just bantering. And then I was like, what's your favorite type of cheese? And then everyone started yelling out answers. And it works. Like even the sound man was like laughing because he's like, what the hell is happening right now? So it's really like, again, for me, it's about reading the room, and us, we just want to have fun. Like we still want to play the songs, but we want people to still, get to know us and see like, okay, this is what they're about. It's a fun time when you go to a Yester Daze show. It's not just show up, you hear the songs to listen to on the way home, and then good night. That's it. That's all.
So that gig with Alzheimer 17th of February at
Yeah.
Petit Campus,
Yeah.
and the single comes out 1st of February.
Yep.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
And then what do we get after that? What can you tell us?
So I mean, When's this coming out? So I know what to say.
Yeah, it's coming out just before the 1st of February.
Okay, perfect. So by then we'll have announced our EP. So our EP will be released in May. And we have 2 more singles that will be released on the way as well, leading up to that, that we're very excited for. So more along the style of what we normally work with, but a bit heavier in terms of I guess the themes. So like one of them deals once again with my mental illnesses, and then there's another song that has to do with more of a relationship thing, and that's arguably like our heaviest song. And if you think the vocals are great on Holy Moly, then this song is a whole other level, because that's my proudest song I think we've done, is lyrically that song, and even vocally I'm very, very proud of what I accomplished on that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any headline shows?
We're looking right now. We're working to get a couple release shows lined up in here in Toronto, and then primarily we're looking to do a lot more opening and support gigs, trying to grow and do stuff like that, build relationships with some of the other bands, some of the other people in the industry. No headlining shows to date for now, but we'll definitely have some later this year. Just for now, it's winter, and people don't want to go out, and neither do we. So,
Yeah.
besides Hotel Mira for now, there's nothing secretive coming where I'm like, oh yeah, no shows, and then a day later I'm gonna announce one. It's the Hotel Mira gig for now. So
Yeah, excellent. Well, it sounds like it's going to be an exciting year for you with new music and hopefully plenty of shows